That's fine.
This is Governor Bob Ehrlich. Good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
They're Dr. Politics. He's the one to see. Breaking down the news with sharp analysis. From Congress halls to campaign trails, he tells the truth when all else fails. They're Dr. Politics. Dr. Politics. Exposing the spin, the lies and tricks. Dr. Politics. Dr. Politics. He calls it straight, no politics as usual. Love from backroom deals to primetime fights. He sheds some light and sets things right. Debates, elections, policy. He cuts through all the DC sleaze. Oh, Dr. Politics, he's got the facts. Dr. Politics, no holding back. Dr. Politics, go away. Dr. Politics, he's got the facts. Dr. Politics, no holding back. Dr. Politics,
Hey, it is Friday, March 28th, 2025. That's a long opening. I didn't realize how long the opening was, but maybe we need to edit that down to.
Song was brilliant, but
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Friday is free Friday. Friday.
Yes, Chris Haas, it's Free Fry Fridays. Don't
Yep.
forget.
Yeah.
But we've got, it's we'd like to welcome Justin. You're the president of the Anne Arundel County Wires, the newest doctor who's on board in his mobile studio.
correct. I don't know if I'm going to be able to
Welcome.
live up to that name, that theme song. It's a
There you
big-
go. Welcome to the show.
Well,
Jordan
that's good.
spoke very highly of you last night.
Yeah,
But
I remember
Yeah,
the
yeah.
old opening. I think this one's better, mainly because I'm in it. But I think this is.
you're in the old opening too, Dave. You're in the old one too.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, point is, it's good opening. So you did well.
And busy week this week. Tomorrow is the Tesla Day of Outrage. Is that what they're calling it? Where they're going to go, where all these people are going to go vandalize Tesla dealerships tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw for
unbelievable.
the first time. I saw a Tesla with a bumper sticker. It said "Shut up, Elon."
I've seen that one.
And it drove past me on Gallows Road there in Falls Church. I'm like,
Do they
geez.
key their own cars in that
I don't know,
situation?
yeah.
I don't know, the local ABC station had this these two old people that bought a Tesla. I think we bought this before, and he had a bumper sticker that says, "I bought this before Elon went crazy," and the vandal says, "Yeah, I'm gonna keep the car and put a 10-cent bumper sticker on, and you support fascism,
Man.
and so on." It's so funny how they go to fascism really fast. It's always fascism. I mean, I remember, Don, when we were called fascists. I was called a fascist for working for Paul Weyrich. Do you remember your dad's book, The News Manipulators, the cover, by the way, Don? There was a liberal who saw the cover of that book on my bookshelf. It might still be here somewhere. But he goes, he goes, "You've got a Nazi book in your house?" I'm like, "No, it's a target. It's not a swastika, you moron."
I got one up here.
Yeah, the founder fought the Nazis and the Imperial Japanese,
Well, Yeah, fascist just means whatever they want it to mean, or it means anyone who disagrees with you. It's
No,
not,
and especially anyone who voted for Donald Trump.
yeah. So
yeah, but I'm old enough to remember when they said that about everybody that voted for George W. Bush.
yeah, I do. I remember that too. Yeah. Yep.
And I know Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing, but it's just another variant. COVID had those variants. We had Nixon derangement syndrome,
Yeah.
which morphed into Ford derangement syndrome. But that was
And
that was a light variant of Ford derangement. It didn't, you know. But then you had the Reagan derangement syndrome. Then you had Bush 41 derangement syndrome. Then you had Bush 43 derangement syndrome. Now we got Trump derangement syndrome. It'll probably be J.D. Vance derangement syndrome in 4 years.
Tesla derangement syndrome, where they're giving up a good car and selling at a loss.
It's no
Or blowing up your
Cadillac.
substation.
And it's no Cadillac. I wouldn't say it's it's an okay car. It's no Cadillac, you know.
Well,
Detroit.
They're really
one
they're
time.
fast. They are fast. The S,
They are.
those plaids are insane.
That's what the
What
president
is it,
thought. He
like
bought a red.
1.9 seconds to 60?
Yeah. But I mean, a Corvette can do that too.
Well, I mean, the point is that they like the car. They wanted to buy it.
Look, I will believe it. Look, if you like the car, buy the car. Frankly, I am not saying you got to buy an ICE vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if ICE has ICE vehicles.
Yeah, built in America.
But I'm saying, look, if you want to buy a Prius, go for it. They've got no get up and go. But if you want a Prius, although we do know a Prius can go up to like 85 miles an hour, or was it 95 miles an hour? Because Al Gore's son was high and dry.
I was about
like
to say
90. Was it 85 or 95?
something like that. But yeah, that's nobody knew a
Prius could do that
until then. Then people realized, well, I guess a Prius can go that fast.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to buy a Honda, you can buy a Honda. I like GM. I think General Motors makes some of the best cars around. Frankly, they've always had the best cars on the road.
Yeah.
Or that special feel of an Oldsmobile, and you'd really rather have a Buick, and best of all, it's a Cadillac. I don't know the Pontiac and Chevrolets because they kept changing theirs. So I don't remember what they had. They had the heartbeat of America at one point. And Pontiac,
they do say the Teslas are overwhelmingly built in America, at least for the domestic market.
Mm-hmm.
So they are.
Well, so will all the GM cars once we make Canada the 51st state.
Yeah, they make a lot. They make a lot of cars. They make a lot of the GM cars.
In parts.
Right.
There's a big plant in Ontario. Well, my Escalade was built in Texas.
Okay.
From the same plant that built the Yukons and Tahoes.
Well, they say the most American car of all things is probably the Toyota Camry, made in Tennessee.
At the former Saturn plant.
Oh, was it? Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you know who has the Toyota plant that was making which is the pickup truck? Jamie McDonald had one of those pickup trucks.
I think I remember. Yeah.
It's the black, but they were made in California, and Elon Musk bought that factory.
Okay.
Interesting.
But I mean, we've had a lot of other stuff going on this week. So let's start with, I guess, topic one. The Congresswoman from the really great state of Texas, despite her living in the state of Texas, who decided to make fun of Governor Abbott for being in a wheelchair. And I think that's frankly deplorable.
Yeah.
Is that the Hot Wheels comment?
Yeah.
Yep. Imagine if we said Tammy Duckworth doesn't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
What kind of scorn would we have gotten? Actually, wait, her opponent did do that, and he got scorned for it.
Well, remember Tim Russert got in trouble with was it Bob Kerrey, who lost a leg during Vietnam? And I think he had an unfortunate line about go out on a limb, or you could lose a limb on this vote, or something like that. So it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah,
some of those are innocent mistakes. I think that was an innocent mistake. In her case, no, she was referring to the wheelchair, and she should have just admitted it and apologized. Instead, she came up with this convoluted argument that, no, the wheels refer to buses that he put migrants on. Those were the Hot Wheels, not the wheels in the chair that he's sitting in. It's just sort of stupid.
By the way, let me just show you something, guys.
They should definitely spend more money on her.
Yeah.
I've got box full of these. You know, and I think,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I think I might actually, if I feel like partying with one, I may want to send some to her office. Yeah.
Any
But,
Teslas?
yes, actually, the white one was a Tesla.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I've also got the Silverado EV.
Careful, someone might break into your house. destroy
It triggers them.
destroy
It'll
your
be a
office.
triggering event, so keep those away from the neighbors.
I've also got a DeLorean Alpha. I've also got a GMC Hummer, the SUV and the truck. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of Hot Wheels. I'm hoarding the market on Hot Wheels because one day they'll be worth something like this one right here. This is my Pontiac Grand Prix. Nice car, yeah. Took really good care of it. It's worth worth like $26 on eBay now. And this is actually a Matchbox, I think, made in Lisney or Hong Kong, one or the other.
Well, it must be interesting in Montgomery County. I would imagine, like Fairfax and Arlington, there are a lot of Teslas on the road. So
There's a lot of Montgomery County too.
that's what I'm saying. I would think in Montgomery County you'd have a lot of Teslas. So I don't know what the reaction would be like from the people there with Musk.
So I've seen a lot of Teslas in Bethesda that say,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, they also have a facility up in Rockville.
Yes, and also they got a dealership down in White Oak or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they closed that showroom or whatever over at Montgomery Mall. So
Yeah, now they moved to Rockville Pike, somewhere in
Yeah,
Rockville. I think
Rockville
they're probably near Pike and Rose.
yeah.
But I wonder if they closed it because the mall was getting protests there.
Yeah, I mean they were. I think those things kind of are in the works for a while for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what the purpose was of having that in the mall. It was always they weren't the only one. I think someone else, another car.
Kia Stinger. They used to have a Kia Stinger store too.
Yeah, I'm not sure what It just seems odd to have those in a mall, but.
Well, years ago, dealerships used to always park their cars in there. If you remember back in the days, they would do all of that stuff. They would put various things. They used to put the Cadillacs in there and stuff like that because Coleman Cadillac's right next to Montgomery Mall. They used to put some of their Cadillacs. I've seen them put some of their other cars there. The Hondas, the dealers would put their cars out there. Although there isn't much ooh and ah about a Honda or any of those regular cars, but the Kia Stinger store was awesome. But
I'd love a Tesla. I don't have the money for a Tesla. I couldn't afford it, but
Toyota's about to unveil a $25,000 EV.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
Used Teslas are relatively
cheap
now. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
you get like an S class for about $35-40, depending on
or less. I mean, you depend.
That is true.
It just depends upon the mileage and everything else, but yeah,
good lines.
But one of my criticisms of Tesla is this: they have the exact same body style they've had since like General Motors. Every 5 years, all the body they get a facelift. The cars, the platforms might change, but like if you look at the Cadillac Escalade, it's got the same look and feel they've had since 2021. Probably next year or the year after, they'll probably go through a big change. There you go. Your microwave cars. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, Tesla hasn't. They don't really redesign their cars.
The budget didn't that have like new taxes for automobiles? That was just passed.
Yeah, the new Maryland budget. Yeah, they're taxing everything. And by the way,
that's right. Yeah.
By the way,
Justin makes a good point.
I want to do a shout out to Democrat Delegate Crosby from St. Mary's County. He voted for all the tax increases, and now he moved his business to Virginia to escape those Westmore taxes.
Oh my God!
But you know which group has been exempt from these business taxes, Don? Lawyers. Attorneys
really?
have been exempt, yes.
And even
But-
service taxes, because they had a lot of service taxes, so those wasn't included.
I mean, lawyers don't get that service tax. They've been exempt from all the taxes. But we've got, so yeah, Maryland passed a really big, ugly budget.
Yeah, I wrote about it. Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts, Don? Got that big, ugly budget.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about. I think we've been talking about this, right? I mean, all of this is just foolhardy on the part of the Democrats. I mean, they're chasing after this money after being left with a huge budget surplus, which they spent and overspent. And what happened every time they go through this tax kind of scheme like this? We went through it with O'Malley, wealth tax, all this stuff. People leave.
Mhm.
Then you now have a smaller tax base. Oh, sorry. Now what are we going to do? There's plenty of places in the United States for Marylanders to go to and live, and a lot of them will pick up and leave as a result of.
I know of two people that I spoke to this past week one of them is looking to move to Nebraska, and another one's moving to Tennessee. And it's just one of those things. People don't want to stay here in Maryland because of all the taxes. To quote Ross Perot, there's gonna be a giant sucking sound of all the Marylanders leaving. Maryland, and I hate to say it, only people that'll be stuck in Maryland are basically the elderly who can't really make the move, or the people who can't afford to move.
People that are just dying to live in a ultra left liberal state.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Yeah.
It's like
But
a death
funny.
spiral. The people that remain are going to be the ones that'll just keep it.
Yeah.
But a lot of those people
that are left behind are saying, yes, we really wanted to live in California, but we didn't want to go 2,000 miles away. So we'll just stay here and let the Democrats turn us into California.
Yeah, we're gonna, and let me tell you, everything is overpriced. I think, we still have, as a result of policies from the Biden Moore era, Wes Moore has devastated Maryland. I mean, Blueprint is a disaster for the state of Maryland. But the sad thing is, when Governor Ehrlich was governor, we fully funded Thornton, and you know something? We did not raise a penny in taxes when we funded Thornton, which speaks volumes. The fact is we've just got so many crazy things going on right now.
To that blueprint, and the budget, shout out to the House of Delegates for actually having to put up with the BS when they were putting in amendments that directly made real cuts that to just hey, we don't have the money, and it got turned into us hating people with disabilities. That was insane. That was the direct pivot. And for them to then just stick another 5 hours on the floor to ultimately get shut down every single time because it's just an insane situation. So
it's it's one of those crazy little things.
Do you know
living
how
in Maryland is not easy?
Well, do you know how he spent? Hogan left a $5 billion surplus. And then Wes Moore, in a matter of a year or so, went through it, and now you have a $3.3 billion budget deficit. Do you know where did all that money go? Do you know, was it into the education or the blueprint?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this. The Baltimore County has an enormous, an exorbitant amount of money going into their education system. I mean, a few $1 billion, right? And they claim they do a decent job, monitoring and tracking. But once you get to a certain level, and I've been saying that for years, you get to a certain level and you don't have the correct, you don't have the information that you actually need to know where the money's going. You can't, there's no bet, your average citizen can't bet anything. You're well, it's $2.2 billion. You know, you're claiming like, you know, follow the children and all this, and it's like, all right, where did the other $800 million go or whatnot? You know.
Yeah, I agree, and I think one of the what do you call the problem is we just have a serious spending problem in Maryland. We can't seem to stop doing anything. You know, we cannot basically get out of the way, frankly, of all this stuff.
You know, I wrote a column on this suggesting that with Wes Moore, he could be in trouble. He could be vulnerable in a couple of years because Maryland, while it's a blue state and all, and very blue, but at the same time, there is a habit of electing Republican governors. And I think with the higher taxes and the budget issues that he's going to face and potential recession, which will hurt, and with the budget cuts from the federal government, I've heard Maryland will be the worst hit state in the union because of that. That being the case, Wes Moore may have some difficulty getting reelected in 26. So a good Republican might have a shot at beating him.
Well, you think it will impact him as early as 26?
Well, when is he up? I assumed he was up in 26.
26. Yeah, he's up at 26, and I think
That's some
a
big
lot of this
impacts.
stuff
Yeah,
Sure.
I think a strong Republican candidate might have a shot at beating him. So we'll see.
Wait,
But I think
what
it's
would
possible.
what would their best like 3 issues be to just hit more
Well,
like
I
right
think
in right in the
spend
waistline?
more in terms of spending and in terms of taxes. And then if you have a bad economy overall, a bad business climate, that also can spill over and affect more.
Well, we also have,
And then there could be other problems too in terms of education and in terms of crime, depending on the crime rates.
that's true. And I mean, more than crime, I think the fact that Marylanders will be paying more in taxes, and if the Trump tax cut does not go through, we can blame every Democrat in the state of Maryland who's in the House of Representatives who all voted to increase taxes on Marylanders on top of all the tax increases Wes Moore is giving us. Fees are going up. I mean, I cannot believe the emissions fees have more than tripled, I think, paying for vehicle emission. They want to tax what you get on a trade-in on a car. That's never been done. Why are we, they're just basically pushing people out. They're killing the automobile industry in Maryland. People will not buy a car, anymore if they have to pay. Let's say you own a Honda Accord. When you trade in, they're gonna tax it if it were brand new, not what you got. So, and they go, well, most people finance cars, so it's not a big deal. They just roll that into their finance. I'm like, do you guys even listen to yourselves when you say stuff like that?
Speaking of finance, could you guys maybe educate this young Republican on this consumer confidence report today and how it adjusts to like Trump's whole economic position right now?
Oh, I didn't take a look at it, but I am quickly looking at it right now. Just give me the Reader's Digest version.
Are you talking about the consumer confidence numbers dropping to about a 4-year low?
Yeah, well, no, I don't think it was a 4-year. I could be wrong. I thought it was just a year to year from this time last year, and but it caught my desk today, a couple occasions.
I'm
But
kind
I
of skeptical.
I can't tell when people are just like, hey, look at this.
Well, I mean, with right track, wrong track has improved since Trump became president. So that seems to contradict a consumer confidence report. So I don't know which to believe. I don't know what to tell you. And I haven't seen that poll yet. But
yeah,
and the guys that put that
consumer
out,
confidence is based on expectations, and how people are, how when they poll how people are feeling. This with tariffs and a lot of other uncertainty going on, with inflation still being kind of sticky, as they want to call people are pulling back a little bit. They're not really quite sure what's going on. You can't really predict. I mean, we don't know what Trump will announce tomorrow or the next day or the day after, and that affects the consumer confidence numbers because they want to. It's kind of Wall Street and everybody else. They want to be able to know with some surety, what's going to happen over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And we have got no clarity whatsoever on this at all. And this is what's dropping these numbers down right now. It's just that and the media has whipped up the tariff thing, right? I mean, it's it's just kind of given this whole tariffs are bad and it's going to push up inflation, and so that also affects people's feeling about, oh, well, we're going to see higher inflation. We're going to see job losses because of Doge and whatever, and maybe the recession word that popped up. All of those things factor into consumer confidence, and so Trump said there'll be some short-term pain, and so we need to be prepared and ready to live with it. And I think that's what we're seeing right now.
And remember, President Reagan had a recession the first year of his presidency.
That's
and
right.
we didn't turn the corner until basically the second quarter of 1982, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably overdue for a recession.
Yeah, I would think.
We probably would. Not that I would want one, but maybe part of Trump's thinking there too is that somehow Biden managed to avoid a recession. When it probably would have been more due during his administration than now. But now that every month that we go by and we don't actually slip into a recession means is that we're probably drawing that much closer to when it kind of hits a pattern of you're going to get one sooner or later. The economy has been remarkably resilient. It's been guided through a lot of stuff, and good stock market. People have been spending money. People have been enjoying things, but we're definitely seeing some places take a hit lately, and so maybe there's a tad, something signs of a light recession coming on the horizon, but then again, it could get turned around and we could just come roaring back and never touch the what technically turns out to be a recession and just keep going on.
Yeah, and it may be best to have Trump as president as opposed to Kamala Harris during a recession, because if we have a recession under him, I think we'll come back strong. If you had a recession under her, we're one word salad away from a total crash. So
they're also talking depression too. Some of the Democrats are talking about a Great Depression, and but I'll tell you this. I think if we have a recession, I think it would be a V-shaped recession.
Yeah.
I think,
I haven't heard the Great Depression thing yet.
Oh yeah, Democrats on social media, they're all calling it the Great Depression, the Great.
Well, they're talking down the economy, but remember, in Biden's case, we had 2 back-to-back quarters of no growth or negative growth. They didn't call that a recession then. Even then, they denied it's not really a recession, even though that's the technical definition. 2 back-to-back quarters of negative growth.
They cooked the books also, I think, to prop them up.
Yeah, they tried to prop them up, and then for Republicans are trying to talk down the economy as much as they can. So.
But the other side of this whole thing is, remember, there's still talk of that Doge dividend. $5,000 for every single American taxpayer. That's a significant amount of money, despite what some of the Democrats say, like Maxine Waters. $5,000 is basically a semester at the University of Maryland.
Well, as you know, and Don, I think, kind of signaled maybe some support for my position. I'd rather them just use the money in terms of tackling the debt or the national debt.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. It's like bad idea.
Yeah,
it's a bad idea. It's not. If we are in if we do hit recession, I think handing out $5,000 to people would not be the worst thing for basically the midterm elections that are coming up. And I think we're in trouble in some of these special elections. Like in Florida for the Waltz seat, that, and we should not be losing that seat, by the way. There is no reason why we should lose a House seat in Florida.
Well, the
Yeah.
Democrats have poured a lot of money into that. Maybe that's one reason. And it looks like our candidate, Fine, I forgot his first name, but apparently they think he's kind of a
Fine.
weak candidate. Not Larry Fine, but something
Fran
Fine.
Fran Fine.
Oh, is it? I was thinking of the the old.
I was thinking of the nanny. Think of the nanny, Fran Fine.
But I think he'll end up winning, but it is going to be kind of close, which is, by the way, segues into my column that I wrote, which is basically that Trump took too many people out of the House, really. And that's Walz's seat. Walz was fine there. They should have just kept him there. But I think we'll keep the seat. So
Hey, if Walz was there, what's his name? Goldberg would not have been eavesdropping on a signal chat.
Yeah, how that happened, I'll never know. Of all the people to get that to, that Goldberg guy is a top-rated sort of never-Trumper, anti-Trumper guy, and how he got that, I have no idea.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
is-
because you have to be dropped into the conversation. You have to have
Yeah.
a phone number to do it.
Yeah,
So he obviously, if somebody had his phone number and put it in there, I mean,
Yeah.
Walt, I guess, has tried to own it. The administration has done, they've done a poor job of defending themselves on this.
Yeah.
This was poorly handled on their part. And, I'm not going to defend Goldberg, but unlike a lot of other journalists, I think to a certain extent, he held back on some of the information that was in that chat until he was kind of pressed, because of the things that the others were saying about him, Hegseth and Trump and everything with this. And he said, okay, well, you're saying there was nothing sensitive or nothing potentially classified. Here's some of the excerpts of what was said in the chat.
I really think Goldberg should have taken himself out of the chat, because you can do that just because you're added, and the responsible thing would have, I'm not supposed to be here. Let me get off.
Yeah, you could, but I mean,
That's the responsible thing.
Journalists are like, look,
That is true.
somebody dropped me in on this thing. I mean, I'm going to, I'm going to sit by here and see what's going on. I mean, that's, to take themselves
But
out.
then how does it spill over the way that it did? Like, the way that it spilt over is it's so irresponsible. Like, how is that not borderline treason? You've managed your way into a chat with some of the most important people, and that's your exit. Your exit is you let the Atlantic spill over, and then it turns into wasting everybody's time in these committee hearings. Like, come on. That's your strategy. That's your big game. That's how you're going to take away the win. Like, it was crazy to me. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
and then we're supposed to listen to them in how the disciplinary measures and everything else, how, like, the administration is supposed to go about reprimanding, somebody who pretty much just knocked our enemy straight out of the planet. Just bam. Nobody's talking about that. But then everybody's all up in arms about an app that's on their device, that was uploaded on their device.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how he got. The thing that's stunning to me, and we need to find this out, is how Goldberg's number got included. How did he get included? That's the real heart of the scandal. I don't know how
Right?
that would
It's like
happened.
the whole thing just gets washed, and we're talking about, we got the director of the CIA and Kash Patel. What does Kash Patel have to do with any of that? It's nothing. If anything, there was one clip of potentially sensitive information that Pam already said was like, she basically said, shut up. She'd put it to rest, essentially, from her perspective. And it's like, what a horrible strategy. And then nobody's talking about Goldberg. Like, how does that happen? Like, the whole thing, and nobody's talking about how the Atlantic just let that just spill over. Like, how?
Well, maybe they shouldn't have been using the Signal app, but I guess
the Signal app. Look, Signal app is approved for government use. It is the fact that we have an interloper who basically should have taken himself out. That would have been the responsible thing to do. But we know these people. But here's like, it's not as bad as the left is making it. This is not. They're turning this into like I don't know. They're blowing this up and they're trying to turn it into a Watergate, or Iran
Signalgate.
Yeah,
Signalgate,
Signalgate. That's what they're calling it. I think Signalgate, right?
Signalgate. They always add gate behind anything to try to make it into.
But I tell you one thing I do like with Pam Bondi and this team in the White House, they're hands on. They took out that MS-13 leader. And by the way, did you guys hear on like WMAL alleged MS-13 leader is what they like during the news?
Well, I got one better than that. I was on the errands the other day, yesterday, and I was listening to the NPR news, came up the top, and they said that Pam Bondi had described the MS-13 leader in Manassas. She said that Pam Bondi declared that he was an undocumented immigrant. She did not. I heard the interview.
Probably was.
Press conference, she called him an illegal alien. But NPR, when they reported it, they said she described him as a undocumented immigrant, and she did not.
What do you do? Listen to NPR. Then again, they're about to go.
I don't know why. I listen to the classical station sometimes, and so.
Do you also listen to Diane Rehm? I hear she's back at NPR.
Is she? She's got to be ancient. I remember Diane Rehm back in our days at.
I remember when Diane Rehm made sense on some of the stuff she'd talk about.
What was that?
It's okay to listen to the opposition because that's the only way you're going to find out what the heck they're saying and thinking.
Yeah,
I remember when Diane Rehm made sense, but
her voice, she sounds really old, but I don't think she is.
No,
that voice sounds so old, but I don't think she's that.
I bet she's 90.
She seems that I remember seeing her once, and she didn't look all that old. So,
hey, Susan, how old? Find out how old Diane Rehm is.
88.
88.
Oh,
there
really?
you go.
Okay. 89 this year.
Okay, well that is.
So Dwight, was it Dwight that said she was 90? Who said she was 90?
Yeah.
All right.
So NPR is going to. I wonder if NPR is around, are they going to throw a big 90th birthday party when she turns 90? But they're like bronze.
NPR and people. I mean, their funding is forward looking. So any attempt to defund them now is really a defunding of their budget, like in 2027 going forward. Their budget they're funded through the next year at the very least. So
did you all see the did you all see her on trial? What's her name? The CEO of
Corporation Public Broadcasting
of NPR. Yeah,
NPR though, that woman, yeah, she was bad. It was terrible. It was
it was awful.
She was bad. She
It was actually awful.
Now,
Zero Republicans. It was 87 registered Democrats, 0 Republicans in a non-biased, middle of the road news station. Seems legit.
Dave, do you remember when we were working for Paul Weyrich? NPR was right up on what's that street?
I Street?
No, North Capitol Street. Remember they were North Capitol?
Okay.
South Capitol, I should say.
Okay.
And then now they got this big fancy building on Massachusetts Avenue by Capitol Hill.
Oh man. Well, you know who else?
Radio.
Well, C-SPAN was near us too, I believe.
Yes, C-SPAN.
And I used to see all the time Brian Lamb there at Union Station.
Well, you know who else was near us was MSNBC.
That's right. And Tim Russert. I remember seeing Tim Russert.
Yeah.
At Union Station.
Tim Russert is a Democrat I can respect.
Yeah. Well, he passed away sadly, but yes.
Yeah, and here's the thing. What really shifted was, do you remember Hurricane Katrina?
Yeah.
Or as I like to call it, the Democrat Wine Fest. You had basically he had the president of St. Bernard Parish who got all weepy and talked about some woman that died because of President Bush. And then Tim Russert goes, you were very emotional. She died a week before the hurricane even came. And that's where I knew Tim's a good guy. He is, sadly, there is no good.
Yeah.
host for Meet the Press since Tim Russert, frankly.
Well, that's true. He died young, sad. It was a heart attack, I think.
Yeah.
But he
Larry
was-
Sabato. Was
Huh?
Larry Sabato, did Larry Sabato host Meet the Press, or was that, I'm thinking of someone else?
No,
After
Larry,
Russert.
no, Larry Sabato's the lefty professor at UVA.
Yeah. That's
He's
something.
bad.
Yeah, he looks like Chuck Todd. That's why I confused the two.
Well, Sabato is Alan Lichtman type bad. I mean,
Oh,
he's on
Alan
the Alan
Lichtman
Lichtman
has
scale.
lost his keys.
Uh.
He is like, him and his son do a podcast, by the way.
Who?
Him and his son, Alan Lichtman and his son, they do a podcast.
Oh, yes, yes.
They did
Isn't
one
he a
last night.
Maryland guy? I think he's a Maryland guy.
Yeah, he probably is. I mean, that's where all the liberals live.
Yeah, but Lichtman was horrible. And there's
Yeah.
also, do you know a Norm Ornstein? Norm Ornstein is horrible.
Yeah, Norm Ornstein is bad. But you know who else lived in Maryland that's really bad too is what's his name? Then she moved to DC when Bob Orlick got elected. Ellen Ratner.
Oh,
She
yes.
used to do a show at NET.
Yes.
Big
she's-
lefty.
Yes.
She moved to DC when Bob Orlick got elected. Because I remember she was speaking at a Leadership Institute school that BQ had for broadcast journalism.
Okay.
Very condescending too. I mean,
Yeah. yes.
but that's where she made the comment. Well, I used to think Maryland was a safe place to live, but then they went and elected Bob Orlick to governor, so I had to move to DC where they'll never elect a Republican.
Okay. I guess
actually
she's still
doesn't-
with us. I don't know. It was years
She
since.
is. She's still with us. She used to remember her and the really tall guy, Jim Pinkerton, used to do a show on Fox called the Long and Short,
Okay.
or Big and Tall, or something like that,
That's good.
But speaking on local news, Shamrock Shakes are gone,
Yeah.
and that's where the consumer confidence, because it's about expectations. So Don, I expect to get a
But Wendy's
Shamrock.
does have Girl Scout Thin Mint Frosty.
I didn't like it. I did not. I didn't like it.
I think they're going to move on to another one. They're having some. They're going to do some fusion Frosty or something.
They did an orange sickle one, which was really good.
I heard that one was good. Yeah,
That could be good. Yeah.
Wendy's is close by to my house, but I never go there.
But there's a Roy Rogers Shamrock Shake that's around all year round.
Ooh, that'd be good. Yeah.
But I have to go all the way to Burtonsville for a Roy Rogers, or over by, actually the old Ehrlich headquarters is a Roy Rogers now there.
Well, yeah, right. It's over there, and then there's one in Montgomery Village for Gaithersburg.
Yeah.
Are
You
you
know
guys
the place
talking about Roy Rogers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Dude,
That's a restaurant.
they exist in Maryland.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I haven't been to a Roy Rogers in like at least 25 years.
Well, you're not old enough to even remember they were in business. I think before they went out of business before you were even born.
Yeah, Justin, you were too young, but when I was a kid, Dwight and Don, when we were coming up, that was one of the big chains, was Roy's, and it was great.
It was
And
part.
Roy
it was part of-
Rogers
it was part of
himself would do
Marriott,
the
right?
Yes, that's right. Marriott, I think, at one point owned them.
And they were besides the roast beef, the thing they would advertise also, the Fixins Bar and
Yeah.
Patsy Parker's Fried Chicken
Yeah, that's right.
and all that. But some guys out of their headquarters now is in Frederick, and they
Yeah.
revived the chain.
That's
so they-
right. The
so they-
Plumundans. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have a handful of restaurants around Maryland.
Mhm.
Yes, that's right.
Roy
There you go.
Rogers.
Westmore
used
can
to-
talk about that for his business-friendly Maryland.
Roy Rogers used to do the commercials for the Roy Rogers chain. And by the way, Marriott also owned Hot Shops and other good old restaurants.
That's right.
Do they have those in Virginia? I know we have
Yes.
them here in Maryland.
We had
They
Hot
have
Shops
them.
in Tyson's Corner, and I loved Hot
Yes.
Shops.
It was great.
Yeah, I mean we're old enough that the Hot Shops or in the Hot Shops Junior. I mean, you depending upon what you had,
I don't remember Hot Shops Junior.
You drive up and order, and they'd come to you, right?
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I just remember going through the line at Hot Shops with your tray.
Yep.
I thought that was great. I loved Hot Shops. Great.
Hot Shops, there's
I always-
a lot of good
Every time I
restaurants.
went
That was
there,
like
I got a
Sonic's.
strawberry shortcake.
Yeah.
Didn't,
Yeah.
My
didn't
dessert.
Sonics have the shakes, the skates?
Yes.
Sonic,
Yes.
Sonic is a little bit like that in that sense.
I've only gone to one Sonics, and that's the one in Hagerstown. But there's one in Ellicott City, which is really close by, and I should just go to that one instead. There used to be one on the way to Ocean City, but one time I decided to stop there, it was gone. Now it's a Tex-Mex restaurant.
The best of all the burger places, we don't have them here, was In-N-Out Burgers from California. They're very good.
Actually, I want to say Little Taverns is the one.
Oh,
that
Little
everybody
Tavern was
calls.
good too. Yeah, they were good.
Says the vegetarian, so I've never had one, but
Little Tavern and their death burgers.
Oh,
what did they do?
it's like White Castle. There were sliders, but
I was just about to say White Castle's sliders, man.
Yeah, that's what they're like. Yeah, very good, very good.
Is White Castle still in business?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they are. Little Tavern's not. I don't think
Not a
Little
whole lot
Tavern.
of them. There's,
You know, a lot of them turned into Chinese restaurants. A lot of the Little Taverns.
Yeah, the Little Tavern. If you go down Lee Highway before you get to Spout Run Parkway on the right, and it may be a Chinese restaurant. That building was the Little Tavern.
The Little Tavern in Wheaton lasted a long time before development came in. And
it's a landmark now. I think they've declared a historical landmark. It's still there, right by the metro station, next to the Radio Shack.
So where my daughter lives in Indiana, they have a White Castle. It's like I need to go there for nostalgia reasons.
Yeah, White Castle, they're good.
That was actually a big chain. Actually, if you watch on History Channel, they do histories. By the way, Justin, this is where we kind of get into the non-political stuff. Usually, this stuff is the beginning of the show.
It's about 90% of the show, really.
Yeah, it's amazing. Actually, we did any politics at all before this.
We actually did more politics today than we did superlative stuff. You know,
politics was brought up in the final thought.
But I mean, do you guys remember Farrell's at all?
I do. In Tyson's Corner, we had a Farrell's.
Yeah, there was one in Wheaton. There was one in Montgomery Mall.
Yeah.
I mean, Justin, I guess restaurants. If you're youth that aren't here, maybe Chuck E. Cheese's. Was that around when you were growing up?
A Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
I think I've been to one Chuck E. Cheese in my entire life, and
yeah, I've only been to one too. And
the animatronics they scared me. They were like, because like, but my animatronic, like the one in New Jersey, and there was definitely like the one where the Chuck E. Cheese at one point was like he would like he was like horrible and like hit other puppets and was like there was like a stain on his shirt. Like he was the scary Chuck E. Cheese. You remember the old school Chuck E. Cheese? Like that was like that like setup. I don't know. Like they kept it around for nostalgia. That's
beginning to sound like Chucky from the movies.
Yeah,
well, remember there was a movie about animatronic there was a horror movie back in the 70s where these animatronics I think it was Bob something is what the name of it was, Bob something, and they all would come to life and they'd kill people.
Oh, is that with Nicolas Cage was in it?
No, they had nobody with that big name in there. It was like it would have been like, well, it's one of those B movies from the 70s.
Oh, okay.
It was like, so it was nobody that big.
Yeah. Dwight's watched a lot of movies.
Actually, it's funny, Don. I've actually read the synopsis because I really don't have the patience to sit through a 2-hour movie. So
Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, it's like Law and Order. I think it's a great show. I think I could sit through and watch it, but no, because it's quicker to read the synopsis and you can figure out how it's going to end, And but there's, by the way, I have come to the conclusion. Law and Order and Law and Order SVU are Doctor Who, because the cast changes. I don't think you have any original cast members left on either of those shows.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, come on. I mean, I don't know how well it goes back a long way, but we'd have to check on Mariska Hargitay because she's been there forever, it seems.
She's the only one left because Ice-T didn't come on until season 2.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the thing about Law and Order and stuff like that is that, Dick Wolf writes these things just like the FBI shows. It's just they look for stuff that's been in the headlines and then try to adapt them for their, 45 minutes or whatever.
They had
last week
they always have a disclaimer about how it's not really reflective, of real people or whatever. But the one, I think it was last week or the week before.
Yeah, they had Luigi Mangiano show. They had that one on Law and Order.
Yeah.
He shot, and I tell you, it was actually pretty good because it showed all the New York City liberals dressing up like the shooter to confuse the cops and all that.
Right. Well, the thing is, to me,
Yeah.
to me, it basically was just like you wound up with this whole thing where wind up having painting a very sympathetic figure for the shooter of the healthcare executive, right? That is the bottom line is what do you come away with? Healthcare executives, healthcare companies, insurance companies, they're bad. They're just they're just ripping up people. They have no compassion whatsoever, and that is kind of that was the message that Law and Order sent on that episode. And it's like, those of us who know and follow politics, we know what the heck is going on. It's like, this is a terrible show, especially when it's based on a guy who lost his life, for no reason, So that's an episode. That's a topic they could have they didn't need to address that at all.
I heard they did not. The jury did not give the judgment. They cut it off right as they were about to tell you.
Exactly.
And it's like, what do you think? You didn't want to influence the real life jury.
Right. They've ended the show without the verdict. Yeah.
If they didn't want to influence the jury, why didn't they wait to next season after the trial is over? They could have done it next year.
Yeah.
But I see Susan asked this question: our best or favorite TV shows. I would still say the best show ever is Star Trek Deep Space Nine. That is far the best show. I remember at Grover's, somebody wrote an article about this, like when the series was ending. They go, the Star Trek with Faith is going away, and that's how that's bad. I think it's somebody that worked for World Magazine wrote that article. But yeah, that's my favorite show. Dave, Don, Justin.
Well, I always like the comedies, and I thought the Bob Newhart show of the '70s was excellent. As a boy, me and my father used to watch Taxi. You remember Taxi with Danny
DeVito? Show, yeah.
Pardon? Yeah, I loved that show even to this day. But I thought Bob Newhart was excellent.
Did you like that better than Newhart? Because I like Newhart better than.
I did. I liked the Bob Newhart show. I liked him being the psychologist and not the innkeeper so much. I thought the psychologist was good.
But yeah, it was the same show. He was just dreaming about being a New England innkeeper.
That's right. I remember that ending. Also, Suzanne Pleshette I thought was very beautiful. And I thought the cast was good. So I thought the Newhart show was great. The one movie I could see again and again, and there are only a couple that are so good. And you guys might agree, the one movie I could see again and again, I'd never tire of, is, and this is way before Justin's time, and even probably ours, it's a Mad World.
That was a great movie where Mr. Hal from Gilligan's Island was the villain.
Yeah. All those stars, they had Don Knotts, all those cameos, Ethel Merman, Jack, all this, I forgot all these stars were in it. And for Justin, who may not know, it's basically a chase across the country. It's a treasure hunt across the country. It's kind of like
the Cannonball Run, but that's also before your time.
Yeah, both of those are beyond me.
But that's a great movie. It's a Mad World. The best. I can watch that again and again.
Is it in color?
Yeah, I think they have. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not, and they've even digitized it, so it's HD now. They got HD versions of those movies too.
And you have Jonathan Winters, you have Mickey Rooney, you have all these stars.
Was Don DeLuise in that, or was that Cannonball Run? I'm thinking he was in.
I can Cannonball Run, I think. Yeah.
For me, I'm a big Braveheart guy. Love Braveheart.
Oh, yeah.
The
Braveheart,
Patriot, like that whole,
the Republican, the big Republican
stretch
movie.
of. And then I love Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Dude, Big Bang Theory is so fun.
See, I did not like Big Bang Theory, and I'll tell you why. It just seemed a little so forced.
Right.
And I didn't like Sheldon's character. Actually, I didn't like none of the characters I thought were likable, frankly.
Oh man.
Unlike, here's a show you might know from your time is How I Met Your Mother. I like that because the entire cast was likable.
Yeah, that was a good. That was funny. Barney was hilarious, right?
Yeah.
That whole
You know, I think the most overrated of all the shows are, and it's considered a hit, and I can't even get through one.
Friends, yeah, that's what I say is the most
I would say
overrated
Friends
show.
too, but MASH. I don't think I could watch an episode of MASH.
How? It's. I mean, other than the fact that it was a what do you call?
Liberal show, sort of.
Yeah,
The other thing would be All in the Family. I thought All in the Family could really get annoying after, because it was so sort of stereotypical. It was just sort of the Archie is the bigot and Meathead
But
is
here's the thing. Here's the funny thing. You should mention that. Norman Lear did that to mock Archie Bunker, right?
Yeah, right.
But here's the. It also shows Archie's compassion. His son-in-law Rob Reiner, Meathead, didn't work. He freeloaded, ate all of Archie's food, and Archie still gave him shelter in his house.
Yeah.
He could have kicked him out of the house, but he didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
And by the way, better than that was Archie Bunker's place was hilarious. It was like the Cheers before Cheers.
Yeah. I thought those were good.
Cheers was probably before Justin's time too, right? Do you remember Cheers at all?
Yeah, Archie Bunker. I know. I remember Archie Bunker. A little bit of Cheers. Yeah.
And Family Ties, they tried to make Alex P. Keaton into the bad guy, but people sympathized with Alex as the conservative.
Had a poster of Reagan up.
Oh, did he?
There was a Christmas special where on Christmas he was watching the Nixon hearings, and you're crucifying an innocent man.
Yeah,
you remember the time when
before Meredith Baxter Burney came out as a lesbian.
Yeah, that's a stunner.
Yeah,
but that was a good show. I mean, I thought that was good. Family Ties.
The way I look at it, Dave, with television, I can separate my politics from the entertainment. It's like, I also really liked. What do you?
Yeah, but what do you think about like Hollywood in general, like the woke? Is woke like is woke a real thing for you guys, for your generation? Like,
we grew up watching Blazing Saddles, Justin. That's a movie you need to watch. It might be banned now, but it is the most.
That's the movie where they're in the quicksand, right?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Well, Justin grew up in a different time. Our time was wokish, but nothing like Justin's time, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think. Let me tell you, we were latchkey. Well, I wasn't a latch. Well, yeah, kind of. Okay, we're the latchkey generation. Okay, we came home, we made our own snacks. We actually did stuff. Unlike the following generation of kids, everything they've got the helicopter parents and so on. But I mean, it's our generation.
I was a little bit of a helicopter parent.
Yeah.
I was.
We're about to go into extra innings, everyone. We're at final thoughts, everyone. We'll start with you, Justin. Final thoughts. Tell us what's on your mind and what's going on with the YRs. You guys have a convention or something coming up, right?
Yeah, this is first, this is a wild show. I had no idea what I was getting into. Jordan hit me.
We don't either.
Hey man,
I'm glad we don't disappoint.
Dwight, I met this guy Dwight. He wants to maybe put you on invite you to a podcast. I was like, all right, yeah, cool. Thinking it would be like next week or whatever today. And but you guys are great. Yeah, you guys are great. I gotta catch up on all these old school shows and movies though. Yeah, man.
You got to start with I Love Lucy.
Dreadful
Only
show. Place
you can watch it is on Pluto.
Dreadful show.
How can you say that? It had John Wayne in it. John Wayne, they had Danny Thomas on that show. They had like all these big stars. Well, you gotta watch. It's on Pluto. You can watch it for free on Pluto. They got 24 hours of I Love Lucy, so every other day she's in Europe. But one of the best episodes was where they're driving to California to get arrested in Tennessee, and Tennessee Ernie Ford's on that show, that episode.
Oh, I like Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Yeah.
How long did it take you guys to make that song in the beginning?
It took me about a couple weeks to write the lyrics. Then I put it into AI called Sono, which did the music itself. And I don't know if you've seen on Facebook the No More song. That's another one that I did. There's a bunch of them on there. I got one. Did a parody of Harper Valley PTA, another TV series before your time.
I remember that one.
Hey.
Oh, you remember that?
I remember Harper Valley's PTA.
Okay.
Barbara Eden was so pretty in that, though.
She was in the movie version too. Usually the movie version has But speaking of Barbara Eden, what show she was on episode of I Love Lucy too.
I didn't know that. She was
So
on an episode of Andy Griffith.
Was she? Yeah, that's right. So was Raquel Welch, by the way.
I did not know that. I did not know.
She was
Are we in final thoughts, or where are we?
Yeah, we're in final. I'm sorry. Sorry, Justin. Finish your final thoughts.
I thought I was done.
Okay. Okay, Dave, final thoughts.
Well, on Monday I was in St. Mary's County, and I had a great time with the women Republicans of St. Mary's, talking about my book. And Lynn Delahaye and all the people there were great, so I had fun. And I got a new column up, so check it out on the whole Walls thing on Substack. And otherwise, doing good and looking forward to the weekend. But that's it for me.
Don, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. It's been a good week, I guess, overall. I think since last time we talked, because Greenpeace got handed their head on a platter with a $667 million judgment for all their shenanigans with the Dakota Access Pipeline. They'll appeal it, and they'll probably wind up paying less. But the judge was not convinced that Greenpeace had nothing to do with those activists, and they had done a lot of training and everything like this. So they got caught on this one, and if anything close to that amount of money winds up being the final amount, I mean, it could bankrupt Greenpeace. Which,
all right, Don, am I remembering wrong? Did the Danish Navy sink a Greenpeace ship, the Rainbow Warrior? I seem to remember.
Yeah,
European country.
Yeah.
Sunk the Rainbow Warrior.
So this. Hopefully this sends a strong signal to environmental activists, is that you can't go out there and be terrorists like that and stuff like that. You have to respect the private property, because Greenpeace they've violated this for a long time, and we finally see some common sense going on along that basis. Bernie and AOC have been running around the country with their fighting oligarchy tour. They're getting some traction with some Democrats, because the Democrats have no idea what the heck is going on, and they'll latch on to anything at this point in time. So, but it's two wonderful leftists running around the country. It doesn't really have any long-term effect on anything, because like I said, the Democrats are in disarray. We saw the poll numbers where they are now hitting an all-time low in favorability. It's a mess. So this is an opportunity for the Republicans, to take advantage of this and strengthen their position. But I have to admit that I will be always a pessimist on the Republicans' chance to grab these opportunities. Republicans they're great at fighting amongst each other and then letting these opportunities slip out of their hands. But you're being handed a golden opportunity, so hopefully they keep their act together and get it together. Though I think that at least for Republicans in Congress, I thought Mike Johnson has done a decent job of trying to hold the caucus together, much better than I thought he would on most things. So maybe there's some hope there. But they definitely are worried, I guess, with the Elise Stefanik getting her nomination pulled so that she can remain in Congress. They're a little bit worried there. I mean, and I think as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, I mean, the margin was already thin, and from a strategic standpoint, if you're the president of the United States, maybe you don't, take too many members out of Congress unless they're guaranteed to win, and they're going to be there. And Stefanik, I mean, she's won, but there's not necessarily a guarantee, with some of the sentiment that's been going on that she wouldn't, that had she left Congress, that would not have been a tough fight, for the Republicans to keep her seat. So,
Speaking of Congress, how do you think Harris is doing? Andy
Kamala,
Harris?
Shoot.
No.
Andy Harris.
Andy here,
Yeah.
Well, he's got a
Andy,
safe seat. He's
Andy
not
Harris
going.
is, there's no problem for him, right?
But how do you think he's managing the caucus?
I think he's doing fine. I mean, with
Yeah, he's doing
what they've
fine
got
now.
there, so it's, but yeah, it's, problem for Maryland is that he's the only guy, right? He's the only guy we got, in Maryland. He doesn't get much of a voice as being one lone guy. We don't have, he can carry the water for Maryland and try to keep people on board, but it's unlike other states where they have a stronger group of Republicans that can band together and try to keep their delegations in line. So anyway, yeah. So I think I'll throw, since Justin mentioned kind of Hollywood, I'll throw out the whole Snow White thing. So they're Snow
Got like
White.
a what 1.8 on IMDb.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah. So they Disney set low expectations for the opening, and they still underachieved. On that. So they were looking at 50 million. They got 43 million. And then, but the movie's been under such attack because they put the Latina as the lead.
How much did they spend to make that movie? With all the CGI,
300 million, I hear.
Wow, I heard it didn't even get 50 million its first week.
They would have
First
been
weekend.
better off
43 million
shelving the
box
movie.
office number. So I mean, they got a long road to hoe to catch up to that. Though streaming rights and some other things, they'll make some of it up over time. But I mean, they've taken and they've totally botched a classic.
Yeah, look what they did with Star Wars. They destroyed the Star Wars series, in my opinion. They couldn't even keep The Mandalorian good.
Yeah. Well,
The first season of The Mandalorian was phenomenal, and then by the end of the third season, it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought the Star Wars franchise was a weak franchise. I think they kind of they made the heroes the wrong people. Frankly, I think Lord Vader and the Empire had the right idea, frankly, and especially when the rebels finally took over, they couldn't manage to hold on to power. And then you have the First Order rises within like 20 years, not even 20 years, because when we get to
You're the reason Democrats can call us fascists.
Why? Because I root for that.
Because you're rooting for Vader.
Yeah, my wish on Star Wars was that Lucas would have put out the sequels and everything like the prequels, in the same kind of fashion every 3 years or so, rather than basically putting on a hiatus and then Disney coming in, because by the time they started putting out more movies, it wasn't the same anymore. They really kind of they just kind of ruined the whole thing, and and Disney, I mean, they their whole Marvel universe, they stretched it beyond belief. But I mean, look, I mean, even Mandalorian, I mean, Gina Carano, if she expresses her political view, goodbye, right?
Oh, that's when canceling was a real.
Yeah,
that's when.
Well, that's what's funny is because Disney has been trying to go back and come around and and try to appease conservatives. Dwight had mentioned.
I hear Disney's
it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to hear how Doge plays out. Like I'll be very interested to see the 6-month impact report once we really start to finalize what's under the hood and all of this stuff. But one of the best things, other than landing reusable rockets and saving people from space stations, Elon Musk has done was bought Twitter. Like if that never happened, so much would be different right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, his tweets are great now, particularly because running Doge and then his tweets is just like, Oh yeah, you're just killing it now.
Oh, just the way that they were like that. They led the cancel culture started with Twitter.
Yeah.
Yep.
That all stemmed before, Facebook kind of like became real.
You
The
know
real
what? You know
message.
what's funny? You know what cancel culture really is? If you go down to the roots of it, it's McCarthyism. That's really what cancel culture is. And what does Rush Limbaugh say? The Democrats always turn into the thing they hate the most, and they really hated Senator McCarthy, a great American hero. Calling out communists and President Nixon, who called out communists, the Gouger Hiss, and a number of other notable, the Pink Lady that President Nixon beat. It's a grand day. It's a grand day.
All right. One last thing, a little more somber, and I'll turn it back to you, Dwight. And it was just that
Yes.
the passing of former Congresswoman Mia Love, who fought a valiant battle with
Yeah.
brain cancer and glioblastoma. So yeah, she fought hard.
Yeah.
I can't say that I was a huge fan of her in Congress. I didn't think that she was all that great for the time that she served, but she was a pioneer in a lot of ways. She was true to herself, true to her faith,
Yeah.
with a wonderful wife and mother, and everything. And so she was definitely a great example on so many fronts, and so valiant and brave, fighting to the end, and explaining her story as she was after the treatments. Her experimental treatments were no longer working. So gone too soon at 49.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my final thoughts. You know how they say you learn something new every day? Did you know there were 7 MGM Lions for the opening? They had 7 lines over the years. What do you think if you just get it right? You have it once, you can just keep reusing that over and over and over again. But they had the last line was 1957, and they're still using that line today. Just
All right.
food for thought.
Who knew? Who cares?
Kind of sounds like our governor race.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
We should end our show with a growling lion.
Would it have an awesome theme song to it?
Actually, we should end it with a growling stomach, so they go to Missoni's after the show.
Wasn't it like Mel Brooks? Didn't he put, like, instead of the line, didn't he put like a cat in there or something like that?
They did Tom and Jerry.
That's Blazing Saddles, right? Mel Brooks is Blazing Saddles.
History of the World Part 2 also.
Blazing Saddles and a bunch of other things. Yeah.
By the way, the only worth watching History of the World is the first one, the original one, not the remake they did a few years ago. But
Springtime for Hitler and that.
Yes.
Whole,
was that from the producers?
yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Hey, Dwight. I really wanted to say though. Final thought. Thank you for having me on, inviting me on, and reaching out. I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and if you know it,
always open. Yeah.
Dude, if you guys, we are actively pursuing all sorts of people that want to get involved. We're trying to build out a coalition here, and but I appreciate you bringing me on.
Good to have you on with us.
Yeah, you should do an Anne Arundel County based podcast.
Yeah, one session. So this was my first session. I was working for Hornberger, and
okay.
And it was really busy. I sold a house last month, and it's a big deal.
Congratulations!
And, thanks. So it was a busy few months. Session has been busy as well, and but now that it's coming to an end, a lot of analyzing and then a lot of outreach. Now it's going to be time to kind of like dig in, and get some things off the ground for sure.
Okay, and my other final thoughts are one. Next week we have Sharon Carrick at Pizza and Politics at Mama Lucia's. It only come on down. Great event, great speaker, and then next month we've got Dave Bossy speaking, and I will be those of you active in the Montgomery, Maryland GOP. You'll be getting an email shortly showing my intent for the first vice chairman vacancy that came up. So stay tuned. Also, another final thought is we are, let's see, Don, we're coming really fast on we've been doing this for close to 10 years now, this show. This show has really grown. Matthew Foldy and I used to do this show. It'd be like once a quarter. And it's grown and grown into what it is today. Thank you all for our loyal supporters. And the show doesn't happen without supporters like you who watch. Thank you, Susan. And
there may be others.
Yes, there are. There are many others, actually. I shouldn't say. Susan's the only one that comments, so everyone else that are watching, it's not, don't be afraid. Don't be shy. You can comment.
The Nielsen ratings are in, and you have one viewer. Her name is. We actually have many more than one viewer, Dave. I'm just being funny.
We may have to yank your picture out of the opening.
I'm just being funny.
But that's more trouble than it's worth to yank your picture out.
Well, I'm safe.
But yeah, and if you guys are ever in Baltimore County, stop by at Missoni's. It's a great place. The food's all great there, and you're like family when you go to Missoni's. So. And what else? Oh yes, also check out Dave's blog on Substack. I've shared it.
Oh, yeah. Please do.
And follow Dave or whatever you do on Substack. Do you follow or do you just subscribe?
I think you can subscribe, and it is for free. And then I always have links to my books on the Substack.
Follow Dave before he puts a paywall up.
I'd like to. I just need to figure out how to upgrade it in such a way. That's all.
And then we've got also Anne Arundel County had a great Lincoln Day dinner with our former colleague, Tom Fitton. Don and I used, actually, I should say, Tom and I both worked for Don many moons ago. And that's about it. So let's all head over to Missoni's, as the song goes, right? Good night, everyone. See everyone next week.
Good night.
Let's go down to Missoni's, where Italian cuisine shines. Let's go down to Missoni's, we'll have a good old time. Homemade pasta at Missoni's, sauces fresh and fine. Good friends gather